All right, finally, let's go. We're talking about Solenoid by Mercia Carter Rescue. Let's go. All right, so Solenoid by Mercia Carter Rescue. Let's see. Let's have my new pal here, the Mighty Highlighter. I didn't annotate before, and now I do, and I see why everyone else. Is that really annotating? I feel like it's annotation light. I just started highlighting things that I thought were cool, and it's easier for me to find those cool things. Before, I wouldn't be able to ever go back to them, and now I can. I took a bunch of notes. You're going to have to bear with me, and yeah, we're on YouTube, so this is a long form kind of a platform. I don't have to do it in 2 seconds, so we're going to do our deep breath and slow right down. There you go. A little more tea. Perfect. And I am holding myself accountable. That's what my little teaser was. If I didn't do that teaser earlier today, I would not be making this right now. But we're going to hold ourselves accountable. So let's get into it. Today's only topic is going to be this book, because this book deserves an entire video to itself. This book was a banger. Solenoid. Here. There we go. Translated by Sean Cotter. In preparation for this, I listened to a podcast with Sean Cotter, and it was very interesting to hear about the translation, the whole translation process. And it really makes me think, with how beautiful the prose is. Like, you can explain to me as much as you want how the translation works, and I don't speak Romanian, which is what this was originally written in. I don't know if it's a collaborative thing, if it's a direct translation, or the smarts of the translator, or I don't know if it's translator or author, but the two married together, it's just beautiful, beautiful writing. And I've seen this before with, no, we're not going to get into other books right now. We're just talking about Solenoid. So instead of me being all over the place, I took some notes, and I have some like dockets on how I want to chop this tree down. So first, I just want to get into an intro, a synopsis. The Mystery of Translations. This is a novel, but it's not necessarily written like a normal novel. It's kind of in a journal structure, a writing of the protagonist's life and things that are happening in his life and his very mundane existence, dreams and anomalies that he has gone through. It is not the typical. It's not the typical. It's not the typical structure, which makes it a little more fun and a little more interesting. It could be considered sci-fi, but I do not put it in the sci-fi category or genre per se, other than literature. It is, but it's not, and we'll get into that too. But we're going to start micro, and then we're going to go macro, which is kind of how this book works. It goes very small, and then it gets very big, very small, very big, very small, very big. And if you read it, you'll know this. I'm going to do my best to not spoil it. Not that this is capable of being spoiled. Nothing I say today is going to ruin the experience of reading this book. So if I say something dumb, don't let it dissuade you from going out and getting it. Let me just cut to the chase right now. You should buy this. You should buy this book. You should read this book, and you should take your time with it and really enjoy it, because it's awesome. And I didn't expect it, because right off the bat, I had finished a couple of other books, and I came down here and I looked at my shelf, and I'm like, what do I want to do? Do I want to do something short? Do I want to do something long? And I really wasn't too privy on anything. And I'm like, well, let's just check this out, because this has been on my TBR for a while. And it hooked me immediately. I'm going to read to you the first line. I have lice again. It doesn't surprise me anymore, doesn't disgust me. It just itches. Like, you got me. You got me to read the whole first page. And the whole first page was so good that I wound up reading the entirety of the book. I have lice. Like, again, it's the first sentence. And that just is kind of persistent throughout the rest of the novel. We're going to be picking this up and referring to it here and there. The main guy, that's who he is, the main guy. I don't think he has a name. Let's get into him. He's kind of miserable. And we're going to talk about the book mainly in the beginning, or the way that it was set up is we're going to like the setup of the book before it gets weird, because it's going to get really weird. He's miserable. He's misunderstood. He has lice again, and it's happened a number of times. He also has a couple of strange things where he will find thread in his belly button that has been there since he was born, and that's apparently how they used to do the umbilical cord a long time ago, and he collects little pieces. He still has all of his baby teeth that he has, and he rattles them around, and a couple of other weird, disturbing tics. He's disgruntled, brooding, and a little bit of a loser. He has aspired to be a writer, and apparently this is kind of like an alternate reality of Carter Russo himself. The protagonist, the character here, goes to a like writing seminar, and he shares his magnum opus poem called "The Fall," and I think it's 20 some odd pages. I could be loose with the details there, but he thinks it's, the bee's knees, and they're kind of laughing at him. And he takes this so personally, and he takes it so bad, and he's just like, he writes off writing, and he kind of makes himself destitute to the arts, and he just self-martyrs in his misery. The rest of his daily life is going on the tram in Romania, and there's like a number of cities and street names that I don't read out loud or in groups, so like my pronunciations never fit. I have my own weird like pronunciation, so when I do these reviews, I'm doing my best, but there's a lot of generalizations. So please. But it's a lot of him going from his school. He's a school teacher, I think it's English, in school 86. And then he goes back to either his boat-shaped home, which he bought, or his parents. I can't remember if he was a teacher when he lived with his parents. So it's pretty much him just back and forth, back and forth. He talks about his love for reading, and he reads, like he's super depressed. Just that's all he does. And then he would write, but he kind of just writes in these journals now, which is his only creative outlet. Yeah, apparently when the author's life went awry. Throughout you can see how, like, you kind of like, you're intrigued by him, but also kind of later as the story progresses, you kind of begin to empathize with him, because you see that it's like a nature and nurture, how this guy came to be. Zooming out a little bit, we're going to look at the setting. His mundane life at the school, school 86. Everything in the city is just dark, it's damp, it's moldy, it's broken, it's disposable. It's like 1970s, 80s Eastern Bloc, and I don't want to just paint this as an Eastern Bloc book, but you can't remove the fact that this book is written in the Eastern Bloc. And there's one part where it shows like the mania of like, well, the government said something, so we're trying to get, I think it had something to do with recycling newspapers. So like the the school needed newspapers, and everyone's going to get newspapers or they're kicked out of school. So what does that do? That drives people to just steal newspapers from their neighbors, and it's a backwards way of doing things. And it's like, well, there's no real decentralized command to really voice anything about, and if you voice anything, you kind of get disappeared. So that's just the reality of it. And also with being in this society, he's dealt with his parents who are just working in his factory. His mom quit, so just gave up an income stream to support her son, but she also raised her son as a girl until he was the age of 4 or 7. So he's kind of tweaked from that, and he has like leftover trauma from that. And then the way that they treat children in this book, because he's a teacher, he's like double involved. You can see how he will have flashbacks of himself as a child, but also he can see as a teacher how kids are treated currently, and it's absolutely abysmal. Um, it, it it is a mark of good literature if it makes you feel something, and this book will make you feel something. But as a parent, it wasn't necessarily like, oh wow, that was absolutely terrible. It was just a little repetitive smacks in the face. A lot of like just like, oh, kid got smacked, kid got smacked, kid got, and it wears you down. And I don't know if that was intentional, but like the way that kids were treated in this book really wore me down. Like he drove the point home. And there was nothing like, it was very upsetting, but it was also like there was nothing like too upsetting that'd be like, oh my God, I can't read this anymore. But it was light enough where it was really heavy. Does that make sense? If you've read the book, let me know what you think of this. Like it was terrible, but it was like, all right, like it was very much this is the way it is, and it was still disturbing. And it was like, am I having a problem with the book? But I don't know. I didn't like it. And if I like where are the freaking adults, man? Like no one's sticking up for these kids. Bothered. He also had a twin that died, and he had like this twin brother kind of the shining with, and he had these dreams about meeting his past brother, and that's a theme that keeps popping in. There's that sound. Yep, pretty much that this setting is there's a whole lot of unresolved grief and trauma, and our protagonist's only outlet creatively are these journals that he writes in. There we go. Zooming out again on more of a larger scene, Carter Russo does a good job of like he could have just hung out, talked about the protagonist the whole time, but he didn't. He goes on a whole lot of different tangents about the characters that are in our protagonist world. And while some of them were fun and some of them were exciting and some of them were like not fun, you kind of can see it's a very relatable world that he's in that like we all have colleagues, we all have that guy that's like this, and it's like he created like this recipe of a very believable staff of diverse people that would be in said setting. um Tangents, very relatable. The principal is one. He's the boss, and he like everyone has like these very weird, bizarre quirks, but it's like it's the boss. It's like the boss is the boss, and everyone knows what the boss character is. But this boss had a skin condition, and he would wear makeup all the time, and it would cake. Instead of like, oh well, the boss wears a wig. It's like it was taken to the 10th exponent of like what that exaggeration would be. So like he would wear makeup to cover up his skin condition, and then you could smell his makeup, and he would sweat through it all the time. And he had like some sort of a mouth issue, so he would always be like Marlowe Brandon. Blah, he'd be like the Godfather all the time, and he was kind of like spitting on himself. Um, there's a rich, vapid lady teacher. There's one woman who is very tall and big, and she's beautiful, and she's kind of like an Amazon. Um, there's a mean lady who has a big, scary ring, and she hates the kids, and she's always hitting them with this ring. And then this ring winds up being lost, and there's a gypsy shop teacher, so everyone starts like, I bet he stole it. And then there is a very horrific dental incident that happens with this story. See, I'm not gonna spoil everything. The drunk janitor and what happens to him, and all these like paintings of the society and the community that he's in. Let's now, you as the reader, believe the surrealism that is coming, the weirdness, and it gets weird. And this is where you could totally make this a sci-fi book, but I don't think this is a sci-fi book. So, normally for me, when I read anything that turns into sci-fi or like, you're going to believe it because I'm the author happens, it's like, we really going here? But the the stuff, I'm getting ahead of myself. The surreal stuff, it gets weird. Um, our main character, he moves out of his parents by buying a house, and this house is weird. And again, he's buying this house from this weird old man. He's like a gypsy traveler, and he starts talking about the magic of this house and blah blah blah. And you get that air of blah blah blah, old man. Like, what are you yapping about? And in this house is the solenoid, and it's this device. I'm not going to get into it because I could not explain it if I tried. But it makes you float in your house when you're like sitting in bed. You hit this button, kind of like the old motels that had the shaking beds. Not that I was ever been to one of those places, but they were in cartoons, and they're kind of like a caricature in and of itself. He would hit this. It's like he would buzz up, and he would just be floating, and he would go on dates with uh, someone, and they would wind up back at his place, and they would float in the air, and that's how they would spend their time. And he describes that experience, but it's not like, oh my god, this is so absolutely insane. It's just like, this is how it is. And you kind of go along with it for a while. And there's a lot of things like that where you just go along with it for the sake of the story, but then it's later explained to you where it's like, this is actually believable. This isn't a bunch of magic crap. There's portals with creatures in them. There's like an alien abduction, and where whoever was abducted, they now have like their torso is like transparent. There's like mystical giant statues that will crush cult leaders. Um, yeah, and the thing that differentiates this from sci-fi is that the world built by it ties to dreams, it ties to physics, it ties to metaphysics, alternate dimensions, and the mathematics of what he goes on about is the tesseract and the fourth dimension. And the fourth dimension and the tesseract are like this visualization. You can't visualize it, so like I've seen like models of it where I can visualize the model, but I can't visualize, nobody can visualize this fourth dimension. I don't know, unless you're a genius, but like I get it. It's out of depth for me, and I just straight up believe it. Does that make me foolish? I don't know. It makes me an organism, which is another theme of this book. You, the viewer, are not your body. You are driving a meat vehicle. Children are they're related over and over again to the larva state of human beings, and like this bug Kafka-esque metamorphosis mindset is all throughout the book. Um, with that, it makes a lot of these surreal things once they're explained, like you see a portal with these weird Salvador Dali creatures, and they're just clawing at each other, and instead of fighting when they get attacked, they just lay down, and then they can be eaten by the other monsters. And you're just watching that until it's, bedtime. Then you get out of the portal, you go float for a little while and go to bed, like, because you had a long day hanging out at the school. What? But you just go along with this, and with all the math and the dreams and everything, it kind of makes sense. It makes a lot of sense, but it's not like we're reading a fantasy novel. It's really cool. And the thing that I find this relatable, I already said Kafka, but also Lovecraft, and even more so Algernon Blackwood. I've only read The Willows from him, but I heard someone say that these two homies of the horror scene, they can really instill the terror of the unknown. So you, as a human, as a worm, as a larva, as just a driver of the body, there are going to be things that you don't understand that are beyond this. And Carter Russo does a great job of making that horrifying, and like there's more going on here than you could understand. So it's not magic, it's just reality. Your reality is questioned throughout this book, which for me, I love. Furthermore, zooming in and out, I thought that this book was just going to be grime the whole time and have like this creepy, itchy feeling, but there's a lot of hope that winds up coming out of it like a fountain the more the story churns. From all this misery, not only that, but like a love story develops, and a relationship is built, and then eventually a family, which out of the scum. I also think that we're doing a tackling of the parallels of the biblical stories of like the Savior and the Chosen One and the Messiah, and it's a very micro, macro size, surrealist way of doing this. Um, let's see. It's like these are thoughts that I have had. Like, if anybody has watched Men in Black, the absolute last scene is where you zoom out of the cosmos, and there's zooming out and zooming out and zooming out, and you wind up the whole universe is in like a marble that these other monsters are just, and then you could zoom in, and you could see like little bugs and particles, and it's like the David Foster Wallace, is this water? Or what is water? You can have these thoughts, but like Carter Russo took it to a whole new level, and he like completed these thoughts in a very unique way, and it's a complete way. But also, what I thought that was genius, unique, and satisfying was that he did it in a very anticlimactic way. When it was happening, whoa, you think that this is the end of the book, and then there's going to be a whole bunch of pages after, but no, it was just very anticlimactic, and it is what it is. Kind of like the way that these realities would be once you discover them. Imagine trying to explain mankind to a roach, you know what I mean, or some idiot creature. Their mind would be blown. But once an understanding comes, big woo, man. Like photosynthesis, amazing, but like we got it. And he did it in that way with this Messiah Chosen One retelling. Incredible. It also has a couple, not a couple. It also tackles another hard theme. Is this the right word? Theme? I'm doing my best. That like love saves. I think I talked in one of my shelf lives how our protagonist was asked if you had to choose in a burning building, a child or like a painting, and then that question kept getting escalated. He just kept picking the child, kept picking the child, picking the child. Where ultimately he has to sacrifice his painting or his masterpiece for a life. And you see if that was the correct choice or not, where he's really tackling ethics, selfishness, and morality. And with one choice to choose the ethical good or to be saved, uh, eh, saved by love and that the self-sacrifice that is inherent in that. Finding freedom in the joy of being no one. Like you don't, like you're giving up your yearning and your selfishness for personal celebrity to be no one, and to the joys uh the joys of that, which were a lifelong fear. Like you feared being a no one, but now you're accepting it and you find that freedom. This is what I got from the book. And I don't know if this is coherent or not. So if you've watched so far, thank you so much. If you like these ramblings, like and subscribe. I put that right in the right spot. Let's pause right now. And I just want to talk about the writing in this book. Like, first of all, this book is awesome. Spine check. I think I only had one real, see right there? There's only one real bend. I didn't get like 15 of them like the Penguin Classics. I only got one once I got about halfway. And it held together really well. No pages came out. I don't know if you can see that right there. But yep, just one. Unintentional. I was careful, but not so careful. But like I said, with the highlighter, I was able to find some gems. Once I got to the end, I wasn't highlighting that much. I kind of just was reading it. I didn't want to get to the end. Oh, dude. I forgot about this part. I'm going to just show you this. This was disturbing as a reader. Part of the experience of reading this was disturbing. You just flip to this page. Help. It's just repetitions of help. And page 3 and 4. 5 and 6. 7.5 pages of just help over and over and over again. Creepy. I think if I could go back in time, I would just leave this open in public. So when people come looking for me at work at lunchtime, that would be on my desk. But I had the book with me, so let's go. All right, let's read a couple of these. Struggling against the specter of insanity and the limits of our pitifulness, flesh-wrapped consciousness. Like, oh, this slaps. Am I too old to say that? This slaps. I like that. This is like my reaction time. I'll get more and more highlights once I get closer to the beginning. Of course, I'm not going to find them now that I'm filming. Oh, there's a longer one. About the terrible responsibility of bringing other people into our hell, about their inhumanity and foreignness, about the fact that they are a different species, not different from us in a degree, but structurally, the way a larva is different from the adult insect. See what I'm talking about? Should this be an ASMR? Oh, we got 2. I don't believe in books. I believe in pages, in phrases, in lines. I will die before I unravel the enigma. I tell myself every day of my life. So cool. Lit bro stuff. Socialism is a society for lazy people. Oh, I think that was a quote, but it's fun to see it. Then I understood that I wasn't a body. I had one. That I was its tenant and its prisoner. Yes. The bleakness. The fantasy hidden deep in the twisted nautilus of her mind. Oh. See what I mean? It has that invertebrate kind of flavor to it. Infinitely demented citadel of the mind. Yes, heady. But also metal. consumed by the acid of time. Like, what? These are like death metal lyrics. I love it. Carnivorous flower of human suffering appeared. Bro. And only then do you realize you are living in a slaughterhouse. The generations are butchered and swallowed by the earth, that billions are pushed down the throat of hell, that no one, absolutely no one, escapes. I should make this a little real when all these. Production was more important than children. Talking about his setting. We're into the beginning of the book. Torture beyond our brain's capacity to imagine the contents of hell. But the pain proved that everything was real, because pain is another word for reality. Sing it. Oh, this one's one of my favorites. The most enigmatic number a human ever imagined, one that eternally bites its own tail, as it does not delimit but excludes the infinity of the world. 0. Yes. Or perhaps we have forgotten the way we forget everything, and more than once, over a course of our lives, when our brains molt like crabs and must quickly find another, more spacious world to house its soft stomach. Brutal. It's just like, life is gross. The devastating gusts of time, like, unbearable. I love it. That's a long one. But, like, you guys get the picture. Any other quick gems? The white mouse running through plexiglass hallways doesn't know its memory is being tested. It's just living its life. Its brain is not capable of asking, why am I here? And, like, it's relating to us, the big smart animal on the rock. You get the point. Bleak. Awesome. 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 So, to wrap up, this book, Solenoid, it's an absolute masterpiece. Over the past week, I've kept thinking of it, and parts will pop up in my head. This is not a book that you're going to forget. Parts will reveal themselves to you over time. That, like I said, that's a mark for me of great literature. The experience of reading this, it was not too hard to read. It was not work like my typical work reads. It was a complete joy. Another thing is there's enough interesting, fun, scientific things in here where you could just read this straight through without really understanding everything he's talking about. But it's so fascinating. You will catch yourself stopping and Googling, what is he talking about? Like the Tesseract. You'll wind up looking that up. He'll name a weird dust mite, and you will look up pictures of this because you need to know how horrifying it is. He talks about Salvador Dali's crucifixion painting where Christ is on like these blocks. You're going to look that up. You're going to want to see that again. So you don't have to look anything up, but it pulls you in like that first line to grow and expand your own knowledge and culture of what he's talking about. It's awesome. And like, that's another genius part about this. If you want love, fear, grime, reality, metaphysics, hard math, dreams, surrealism, poverty, oppression, despair, depression, prose, and entertainment, look no further than this book. And with that, I invite you guys to add comments, start a discussion in the comments. What parts hit? What parts did not hit? What parts do you think I totally mulled over? What did you like about this review? And do you want to read it now? Have you read this now? What do you think? With that, if you've made it this far, thank you so much. And I really appreciate you and all of your time. With that, like, subscribe, check back for more. They're not all reviews. Do you like this review? Do you not? I don't know how to end these. Love you guys. And time for the next shelf life. Keep your eyes peeled. and I'm on to other books. This was great. Solenoid. Mercy Carter Rescue. Absolutely exceptional. It is 100% deserving of all the hype it's been getting and has got. And no, it's not a dud at all. Don't believe anybody. This book rules. Love you guys. Out.